Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last session for the day. We do have a closing session afterwards, so please join us in the larger room when you're done. And I wanted to introduce to you Jeannie Joseph, and she is going to talk today about the human-animal connection, service therapy, and emotional support animals. Thank you, everybody, and here we go.
Well, thank you so much, Juliana, and thank you everyone who chose to be in this session. I know there's lots of great sessions going on at the same time. So yes, my name is Jeannie, and I'm from the Human-Animal Connection, and we do a number of different things. We bring people to animals and animals to people for the benefit of both. So we work with all animals. We work with horses, we work with dogs, we work with cats, we work with all kinds of animals. So I'm just curious, is everybody here an animal lover? Are you guys animal lovers? You can nod or give me a thumbs up if you're an animal lover. Yeah. So animals are amazing because they love us just for who we are, just like every human being is an individual, every animal is an individual. So different animals have different interests or desires to relate to humans or the ways that they relate to humans. So not all dogs want to be loved on, but the ones that do love it. And so it's just really nice to be with animals because they don't have opinions about how we look or how we sound or anything like that. They just see us as a unique individual, and oftentimes they just want to just love us. So a little bit about what we do. We do therapy dog visits. That means that we can go to a facility with trained and certified insured dogs that have been very well trained, and they're certified to be good with meeting strangers. And we also will pair people with shelter dogs. So if you are looking perhaps down the line or whenever to either foster a dog, which means you take a dog home and you have a trial period, see how you do with the dog or cat. So you can foster a dog for a week, a month, a year, and see if it's right for you. Because sometimes people have an idea of how wonderful it would be to have a dog, but they don't necessarily know the reality of having a dog. So we like to encourage people to think about fostering. And then if it feels right at any point in that foster process, you can go ahead and do a formal adoption of that dog. Or if it doesn't feel right, the dog will go back to the shelter. So that's a really important program for those of you who might be wondering if a dog would be the right addition to your life. So we also train people to work with dog teams. We've been doing a program at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base where we train them to work with their personal dogs to become therapy dogs. So that's a whole training program that we do. And then for those who have an interest in volunteering, we help them volunteer at the shelter. So if you'd like to get involved with shelter life, that's something that we can help you do. So in addition to those are our regular programs, we also, certain individuals can contact us and say, I have this specific need or this specific issue, or, we can discuss individual issues in addition to our main programs that we have. We're a small organization, but so, I occasionally will make a house call, meaning I'll go with my dog to visit one person or go to visit them with their animal and help them out. So this is a program that we did at Davis-Monthan. So we're working with veterans as well as with active duty to help them with their dogs. And if they want to become what we call morale dog teams, that's because soldiers airmen, they don't like the word therapy. So we call them morale dog teams. So it's basically dogs that help people feel good in high stress situations. So just very briefly about how this program developed. It started with a program I had created called the Act Resilient Method. And in this program, we did a lot of really fun things like improv comedy. We did expressive arts, emotional flexibility skills, all aimed at resilience. And we work with over 4,000 service members as well as their families. And towards the end of that program, I discovered how amazing it was to work with therapy dogs. And this is Oscar, my first therapy dog, this picture here. And he had been, this is when I was living in Hawaii, and he had a very rough history. He was unfortunately forced to be what they call wild pig hunters in Hawaii, and they treat these dogs very poorly. They starved them to make them more aggressive. So he was missing teeth. He had scars all over his body, but he was the sweetest dog you could ever meet. And I would take him and meet a room full of soldiers, and he would go around and say hello to each one, and he would find exactly the one person who needed the attention in that moment. So he worked with children, he worked with adults. He was just amazing in his sensitivity about where people were and what they needed. And he could even tell if people were a little afraid. He would not spend time with them. He would just sort of walk past them. So he really just had amazing instincts. So any of you who are interested, this was just a little bit of the results of a study that was done of the effectiveness of our program. So this is working with active duty soldiers. So they're coming right from the field. The red line is before in terms of stress levels, and the blue line is after. So by week 10, they were reporting near zero stress levels. So we were really happy about this program. And a lot of, veterans feel like they're broken. And so one of the things that we do is help them work with so-called broken animals, meaning animals who've had physical injuries or traumas or different experiences that lead them to feel, that they're, shy or frightened. They're not going to be an easy adoption because they don't present well in the shelter. When people come to visit them, they just cower in their crate, in their kennel. They don't come up and greet people. And these are we work with these animals. We work with animals that are shy or under socialized, or don't present well when you first meet them. And it really gives the person who works with them a sense of purpose to be helping another being that maybe could end up on the euthanasia list if they don't get adopted in some shelters. So we really find that it helps both the person and the animal. So as I was saying before, this is a little miniature horse. He is 17 inches tall. It's one of the smallest horses recorded, and next to a little bulldog. So just to point out, and he couldn't walk at first, and they were going to euthanize him. Wonderful family took him in, and he has a very happy life. He has some prosthetic legs, but he gets along just fine and plays with the dogs. I think he thinks he's a dog, but he has a very good life. So it's just wonderful when people understand that, every life is valuable, and to give animals like this a chance. So that just excites us tremendously. So therapy dogs are dogs that go and visit in different environments. So it could be in a hospital or school, a library, any place that people are. So we bring the dogs to the people and help them interact. And we'll talk a little bit more about all the different types of ways that animals can be involved in human interactions. But one of the things that we really find is that cuddling is just really incredibly beneficial. Dogs don't just, or horses, they don't just, react to how you look or how you sound or whether you can see or whether you can hear. I have a brain injury, I'm hearing impaired. They just love you, and, touch is a very healing thing. So even if you can't see, interacting with a dog or a horse can be extremely wonderful, because sight is not the only thing, or if you don't hear, you still can have a very full experience relating with an animal. So touch is something that, a lot of people don't have enough of in their lives. And it's, society in general, touch is decreasing, but a lot of people are in situations where they don't have positive touch, healthy touch, healing touch, happy touch. And this is one of the ways that animals can really be helpful to us. So this little chimpanzee here, his name is, or I think her name is Anjana, and she rescued, she was in a sanctuary, and there were some orphan Siberian tiger cubs here, and she nursed them to life without any training at all. So she did this twice with two cubs, even though they had, claws and everything. Without any training, she figured out how to hold that bottle and how to cuddle with them, and they developed normally in ways that they would not have just with human care. So there's an amazing power of touch for well-being physically and mentally, and this is one of the ways that animals can support us. So yeah, this is a tiger. This man had raised this tiger cub and released him into the wild, and came back a few years later. He wasn't sure if the tiger would recognize him. The tiger came running from very far away and gave him a wonderful hug. So they have very good memories. So we'll talk a little bit about the possible partnerships with animals, because there are so many different ways that we could relate to animals. So one is what we call companion animals. And these are animals that they're just there to love you. They're kind of like pets, but they're kind of very good at the human animal connection. They really like to love, they like to pet, they like to engage, they like to make eye contact. And gazing into the eyes of an animal releases oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone. So that's like women when they're breastfeeding, they release oxytocin, helps them bond. So looking into the the gaze of a loving animal can really help you feel even better. So that would be an example of a companion animal. A companion animal would live with you, same as an emotional support animal. So these are animals that are about 20% of animals are very sensitive to human emotions. All animals are sensitive to a certain degree, but an emotional support animal would be able to tell if your stress level is rising. And it'd be up to you to pay attention if they begin to alert you, if they start to nuzzle you or look at you like, hey, mama, why are you getting stressed? And they kind of let you know that you're rising in cortisol levels, stress chemistry, and they give you an opportunity to get more centered, pay attention, calm down, take a deep breath. So that would be an example of an emotional support animal. So what's interesting about those is they could be anything. There are horses that are emotional support animals. There are rabbits, there are cats, there are birds. Lots of different animals could be support animals. Therapy animals, as I mentioned earlier, are the animals that go and visit. So they would go to a different location, a different facility, visit with you. And there are two types of activity. One is just sort of like has no structure. You just interact with the animals. And animal assisted therapy is where there's actually a specific therapeutic agenda. Like, for example, somebody's having mobility issues, that the dog can help them stabilize, can help them walk. If they do fall, they can brace and help the person get up. So that would be an example of a more specific activity. Then we're going to talk more in detail about service animals in a moment, but we'll get to service animals, and those are highly trained animals that work with an individual who has a specific disability and they assist that person. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, we have working dogs, like you might have seen. They work in airports, or they find bombs, they find drugs, different things like that. So any animal can be an emotional support animal. However, with emotional support animals, of course, you don't have the same privileges that you have with access. So only the service dog will give you access, where you can go to a restaurant with your service dog. That's not the case with an emotional support animal. We don't yet in our society have rules that protect people. So here's a woman who has a pig, and this pig is a wonderful emotional support animal for her, very tuned into her emotions and helps her in many ways. So just to look a little bit about the various types of therapy animals. The first is where the animal visits a facility, like could be a nursing home or any kind of situation where people are in group formation. They also help kids learn to read, which is really a very powerful thing, because sometimes children who are having trouble learning to read and they get nervous when all the adults around them correct them. What's great about reading to the dog is the dog obviously doesn't correct them, and the dog will sit and read, sit there and pay attention to the book, and then look at the child when the child looks at them. So they get this real sense of interaction. And it shows that reading scores improve over a 12% over a 10-week period of this program. So it's a really wonderful program that's reading to the dogs. Then in some cities, there are courtroom dogs, like this is a veteran courtroom dog. And this boxer here, her name is Athena, and she was in a shelter in Hawaii, and she was going to be euthanized because she was considered so aggressive that she had to be put down. But fortunately, a wonderful man, a veteran, adopted her, and he worked with her by attaching the dog to his waist for about 3 weeks, and the dog just completely calmed down. All the aggression went away, and this dog became a perfect visitor to courtrooms when veterans had to go and testify. The dog would come with them. So, and of course, you've all seen examples of military support dogs. And then also compassion fatigue, those healthcare providers. We visit with the doctors and the nurses and other healthcare providers, bring them stress and relief. And then in the final picture on the lower right there, that is actually a robot dog. And they're being used in some facilities because obviously they don't need to be fed or pottied, but they have some of the same ability to cuddle. They recognize their name. If a person calls them any name at all, frequently they'll recognize that name and they kind of purr and make goo-goo eyes. So this is great for people with dementia. I know my mother has dementia. She lives with me, and right now I have my own service dog, so my dog kind of doubles up, works with her too. But it's a wonderful thing for people who couldn't physically manage a real dog and the physical needs of a real dog. Does anybody have any questions so far about I kind of threw a lot of information out at once, but about these different categories or how to understand these different things? Anybody have any questions? Juliana, is there anything in chat that we should know about?
I do not see any questions.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep going. If any questions come up, just let me know.
Jeannie?
Yes.
This is Sherry. I have two cats. One is my personal cat, and she's they got me as my support cat. And another one I take care of, but he seems like he attached to me more than my own cat.
Yeah, that can happen. It's funny. It's like we think, oh, this is my cat, but then the cat has a different opinion. Do you know what I mean? So this is why it's really important when we're doing pairing. Sometimes we can say, oh, this dog would be perfect for this person, or this horse would be perfect for this person. And then they meet and it's not perfect. It's just like in real life with humans. You find you like some people and you feel drawn to certain people. Other people, you don't feel it as much. So animals, they choose their people. And so, just enjoy the uniqueness of both cats, because the cats have their own opinions about who they want to be attached to. It doesn't mean the other cat doesn't love you, but it's just different.
Oh, she does love me. I know, because she has to sleep next to me every day. But
yeah,
my oldest one, he's on my side every 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, they have very strong opinion. That's one of the things that we talk about in the human animal connection, is that animals have opinions. They like who they like. They just they have their own ways of perceiving the world just the way we do. And some people, they just feel very safe and they bond just like that. And other people, they don't feel quite as drawn to. So,
Jeannie, we do have another question.
Oh, sure.
So the question is there any programs if we are not a veteran?
Oh, yes. So all of these programs are for everyone. I just mentioned because we had done a lot of work with veterans. So if you have individual questions about that, you can certainly email me. But yes, this program is available for everyone. So we work with children, we work with adults, we work with all kinds of people. So it doesn't have to be just veterans. Thanks for asking that question. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about service animals. So these are, there are different levels of work. Like we talked about emotional support animals that are just really there to love you up, kind of like Sherry's cats, these are companion animals, emotional support animals. And then we talked about therapy animals that go on visits. Then we're talking about a whole another category called service animals. And these are animals that have specialized training and they do special tasks for people with special issues. So for example, the first picture is a little girl with autism, and I don't know if you can see that she's tethered to the dog. So the dog has a leash, the mother's holding the leash, and the dog is also attached to the little girl. And the reason why that's important is that she was constantly escaping from school. She couldn't go to school because she would just bolt, she would just run, and she wouldn't respond to her name. I forget if she was hearing impaired also, but when she got her dog, she no longer did this. She no longer did these escapes. And so she was able to go to school. So very, very helpful in that. And then of course, people with PTSD can, get a service animal really helps because the dogs can help alert them if their stress levels are starting to rise. So that's one of the things that's really important, is that they can recognize stress even when it's at a low level before it becomes too intense, too difficult. Brace and support, those are the dogs that help people who are falling or have some mobility issues. The dog will stand very still so that they can get up themselves. And so those are called brace and support. Mobility would be to help people move more. There was one story about a monkey who helped with a person who was a paraplegic, and this monkey could turn on and off the lights, could change the temperature, could bring him his medication, could pick up objects that had fallen, could, scratch if he had an itch. So the monkey functioned almost like a pair of hands. So that's, of course, a very high level of training, and really wonderful to see that pairing. Diabetic alert dogs can alert for high or low blood sugar, and they have a very high accuracy. They're as accurate as medical devices. And seizure alert, I know Joanna mentioned she had had seizures, and so seizure alert dogs will let you know that a seizure is coming. They have the ability to tell that the seizure is on the way, maybe several minutes ahead, to give you a chance to either get help. If you're living with someone else, they're trained to get help from someone else, or they give you a signal so that you can get yourself into a safe situation or a safer situation. So those are just, and hearing dogs, of course. Seeing eye dogs, you've probably heard about. Medical alert dogs for different conditions. So these are just some of the ways that service animals can really be life-changing for people. And service animals, of course, have all the privileges of being able to go with you everywhere. So you go to the grocery store, you go to the library, wherever it is that you're going, the dog is allowed to go with you and cannot be denied. And you see, here's a person with a miniature horse as his service animal. I think that's a seeing eye horse. So he's traveling at the airport with his horse. This horse is a little miniature horse, is going to go on the airplane with him. So these are very high level, obviously trained dogs. It takes quite a while. It takes a couple of years to train a service dog. They're very expensive, as you've probably heard. They can be, $50,000 or more because it requires very specialized training. And even when these dogs are bred for service, only about 2 out of 5 will qualify, because they have to be, in the case of like Seizure Alert, they have to be, 99 to 100% accurate. They can't miss a cue. So this is why these dogs have to be very highly trained. So some of you might be interested in exploring that at some point in your life. Any questions about service animals?
I do not see a question yet.
Okay. All right. So if it comes up, just feel free to put it in chat. So one of the reasons that I think animals and humans are such good partners, aside from all the things that I've said already, is that animals help us feel better, do better. They help us with our resilience. So they help us to be more stable physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So connecting with animals is one of the ways that we can just feel better overall about life and about ourselves, because we've got this wonderful little creature, that loves us. I think Sherry was saying like about her cats, it just makes you feel good when you interact. And cats can be wonderful companions. So I tend to talk a lot about dogs, but cats can be just wonderful support, and they can help us relieve stress. They can raise our morale. They improve cognitive functions. And there's a lot of physiological benefits like lower blood pressure, all kinds of, happier hormones. There are so many ways that animals help us to feel better and do better. So one of the ways that I think animals are so important in our life is that they connect us to a sense of goodness. Like, it's so easy when you look at a dog to just go, oh, you're such a good doggy. We have this good feeling when we're interacting with dogs or petting them or looking at them. It's so easy to feel how good they are. And as nice as that is for the dog to be told that they're good, it's also good for you when you do it. So when you are thinking about goodness, when you're feeling the goodness of a dog, it helps you feel your own goodness. because goodness is like an energy. It's like medicine. It's like good medicine, the medicine of goodness. And so when we're feeling good about an animal, about a horse or about a pig, a dog, a cat, a rabbit, a bird, whatever it is, we also get a chemical boost. We get this feel good boost. So while we're saying and feeling good doggy, we're also getting a feeling of goodness within ourselves. Is that something that those of you who are listening, do you agree with that? Is that a new idea? Is that obvious? Anybody want to comment on that? Because that's kind of one of our foundational principles. So I'm just sort of curious what other people's thoughts are about that. Anyone want to chime in? You can unmute and add something. All right, so that is one of the ways that animals help us, is that they can help us to feel our goodness. They can help us feel happier. There's a quote, "There's no psychiatrist in the world like a puppy licking your face."
Jeannie,
Yes,
someone commented that they feel it. They feel it every time.
they feel it every time.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Does that person want to say anything more about that?
Kai, would you want to talk any more about that?
Or you can a little later if you feel like it. So dogs are really role models for coping skills. Like I mentioned, Oscar, who had been through just that terrible, time in his life, and he escaped from that situation. I don't know if I told you that, but he escaped from that. And what we find is that even dogs that have been forced to be in dog fighting groups and all that, once they get taken out, once they get rescued, many of them recover, meaning they go back to this sweet core self, the truth of who they are. So they overcome their past, they overcome their conditioning, and they blossom and flower as the truth of who they are. And they can be really role models for us in terms of how we can do that ourselves. They can show us how it doesn't matter, what our past was, we still can make new choices in the present. So I'm just thinking, right, I should really just go to full screen. Whoops. Let me just go back to where I was. Okay. So I just want to mention a couple of things that we can think about in terms of the relationship between resilience and working with animals. So one of the things that we get when we interact with animals, I think Katie was talking about interacting with horses. If we enter with respect into their world, we get a sense of feeling connection to the herd. And humans are social animals. Now that varies, some individuals like a lot of social connections, some like less, everybody's different, there's a range. But in general, as a species, we are social animals, meaning we need some connection. And sometimes we can't get all that we need from the human side, but just interacting with the animals helps us to feel part of the pack. And for pack animals, they need to be in the presence of others of their same species, but just being with others of their same species gives them a sense of safety, a sense of well-being. So that's something that we can do. Then we talk about the power of play.
Jeannie?
Saying, yes.
So in the comments, they said, I ended up with 2 dogs during the pandemic, and it was life-saving for me and my 3 boys.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. There were something like 11 million pets adopted in the US during the pandemic, and they saved a lot of lives. There are so many ways that animals can bring a sense of hope and vitality and play and joy into our lives. And I'm so glad you did that. Yeah. So the power of play is one of our big principles in the human-animal connection. Animals, once they start to feel safe, they will play, they will engage, and that, not all play is, big and bold and boisterous, but just wanting to interact. And play is something that a lot of adults don't have enough of in their lives. There's not enough of fun, creative, unstructured, just goofy play that makes you giggle, makes you laugh. And this is one of the ways that we can really help bolster our own resilience is by having more play in our lives. And not all of us can go out and play a baseball game or something, but we can play with animals. And animals are so forgiving in terms of what they consider play. I mean, like I forget who had the cat, but my brain injury, I forget names here, but all you need to do is crumple up a little piece of paper and throw it, where a cat can see where you throw it, and the cat is in heaven. They just enjoy the simple play, simple tasks like that. So next thing we talk about is what we call the power of focus. And this is the ability to put your attention on what you do want more than on what you don't want. And that is one of the secrets to happiness, is to be able to focus your attention, to put it on what you want rather than the things that you're not so happy about. It's not to say that you're going to ignore what isn't working, but you want the ability to switch your focus, meaning to direct your attention towards what you can do, towards what makes you feel good, towards what brings you joy or pleasure in your life. And animals can really help us do that. And one of the things that we talk about for people who want to volunteer with us in the shelter is that not all dogs are comfortable making eye contact, especially if they've had a bad past with humans in the shelter. But what we find is that dogs that make eye contact in the shelter are more likely to be adopted. So when I ask people, at PAC, Pima Animal Care Center was one of the shelters where I volunteer, and I'll say to people, sometimes there's 200, 300 dogs at that shelter. And I'll say to someone who's adopting, why did you adopt that one dog? And often they'll say, well, it was the way he looked at me. He just gave me this look. I couldn't leave him there. So this is why it's so important to teach dogs in a shelter environment to learn how to make eye contact, because this is going to be their number one tool, their asset to potentially be adopted. So we call it focus. We teach the dog focus, which is how to be comfortable making eye contact. Because, in the animal kingdom, staring is a sign of aggression. So you don't want to go up to a dog that you don't know and, stare at them right in the eye, because that might be too much eye contact. That could be considered aggressive. But if it's your own animal, they may be very comfortable making eye contact. And some dogs love eye contact. I'm working with one dog at the shelter right now. His name is Buff, and he was a stray. Very, very scared at first. He was just hovering in the corner in the play group with the other dogs. He just was cowering in the corner. And I came and sat. I was on the other side of the fence, and he walked 30 feet across all this group of dogs just to come over and hang out with me, because I was doing some inner healing work. And he just sat with me for 20 minutes. And I was told, oh, he can't make eye contact. Well, now he's just great at eye contact. He just loves to just gaze at you. And he couldn't be touched at first. He would flinch. And now he can, just loves to be cuddled. He crawled into my arms, and he's a big guy, right? He's, 60, 80 pounds or so probably about 70 pounds. Yeah, he's a big guy, but he crawled right into my lap and went to sleep. So I wish I had shown you a picture of Buff. Maybe I'll see if I can find that if we have time. So that's the moral of the story, is to be happy. We don't want to dwell in the past. We don't want to worry about the future. We want to put all of our focus as best we can on the good things that are happening right here, right now. And that's what animals help us do. So this is something that we do in our program. If you've ever watched animals, when they get a little bit stressed, they'll do this little shake that is like shake it out. It's a really quick shake. And what they're doing is they're shaking out the stress chemistry. They're shaking out the adrenaline, the cortisol, the stress chemistry. And this is an incredibly wise thing to do. As humans, we really need to do this. It's in our culture, we're not allowed to shake. People think like, Johanna, you're having a seizure or something, So there's not a lot of permission to shake. And yet shaking is one of the great healthy things that we can do. And we don't have to shake for long, but when animals have been out in nature and they've been chased by another creature and they get to safety, the first thing they do is shake it out. And what they're doing is they're shaking out the stress, they're shaking out the adrenaline. And this is so important because in the psychological model, which kind of has dominated understanding of PTSD, they think it's all in the head. But the truth is that stress is in the body. And in order to relieve stress, you actually need to move your body. You need to, shake it. And it doesn't have to be vigorous, whatever shaking that feels good to you. Like, even if you just shake your head and go, that's really good for you. I don't know how many of you are willing to do that. I can't see you on video, but if you want to, just go, it's just a really good thing to do when you start getting a little too, wound up, to just go ahead and take a moment and shake and make a little noise. It's a really therapeutic thing. So the last tip I'm going to give you for this little presentation is this idea of being here now, which means this is what animals do. They're right here, they're right now. It's not that they don't have a memory of the past or they can't anticipate the future. They can, but they spend most of their energy like, what's happening right now? What are we going to do now? What's next? They're very much in the moment. And this is why it's one of the reasons why it's so pleasing to be with them, is they're not complaining about what happened yesterday. They're not worried about some other thing that's going to happen later. They just really want to be with you right now and be cuddly and be sweet and enjoy you and enjoy life. And that's what we need to do. We need to have a little bit more of that experience. And I know Katie really likes horses. This is one of the things, being with horses, they are just so fully here. Do you know what I mean? That it's like you can't think about other stuff. They pull you into their world of just whatever's happening right now. Juliana, did you have somebody ask a question? Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Never owned a dog before the pandemic because it was a big responsibility. But any ideas if now that the world is more active, sometimes it makes me stress that I didn't take them for a walk one day, or basically I get doggy mom guilt now. If I feel I'm not giving the dogs time, they are always ready when I do have more time, though. They seem to be very understanding, but can we make dogs sad? Or do they just forget about you get home? I mean,
yes,
they forget about after you get home.
Yes. So there was a lot there, so I might need some help remembering all the points. But yes, animals feel emotions. Yes, they can feel sad. Yes, they can let go of being sad when you come home. So they can be sad when you leave, and feel the loss of you. But the moment you come home, that's over. They they are excited to see you. So they don't hold grudges the way we humans do. They don't go, you left me alone for 7 hours yesterday, and I'm just mad about it. For the most part, they don't do that. They are really like, once you walk through the door, all is forgiven. So you could certainly email me. We could talk about more of your particulars, because I'm not sure I got all of the elements of your question there. And you could put it back in chat if I missed something. But I think that what you were asking was, should you feel guilty about not being a perfect dog mom? And the answer is no. We do want to be the best dog mom and dad we can be. So again, everybody's situation is different. Whether or not a dog is right for you in your life is a question. We can explore that if anybody wants to, like, say, I'm thinking about getting a dog. I'd like to know. We can have a conversation, and I can help you kind of work through, like, okay, what are the things you can do? What are the things you can't do? And we can explore that. And as I mentioned earlier, those people who want to have a trial can consider fostering a dog from the shelter and give it a whirl for a month or a week or a day. Tomorrow I'm going to take a dog from the shelter just for the afternoon, and I'm going to go get him an ice cream. So I'm going to take him out of the shelter. We're going to go get a Dairy Queen. We're going to give him a massage, and then unfortunately I have to bring him back. The reason being, I already have a service dog, and my landlord doesn't allow me to have 2 dogs. But I can just take this dog out for a nice day or a half day, get some ice cream and get a massage. So if I missed anything, Juliana, please tell me if I missed anything to that question. Did I get it all there?
I believe you did, yes.
Okay. Yeah, if there's anything else, just feel free to add it. So another reason why I think being with animals is so healing is that sometimes we forget that we are animals, but we are, right? We're animals. we're a different kind of animal than an octopus. We're different than a cow. We're different from a bird. But the fact is, we are animals, and our nervous systems are very much like animals. The more we understand about animal brains, the more we recognize that we as humans are more like animals than we thought. And our closest living genetic relatives is called a bonobo. Does anybody know what a bonobo is? I should run a picture, but they are wonderful, and they are very peaceful, unlike chimpanzees who can fight and over territory and get really rough. Bonobos just always want to be happy. They just want to play, and when they meet strange bonobos they haven't met, they just want to hug and kiss and be friends, and they just are so much fun. So sometimes it really helps to remember that we are animals. And one of the ways to remember that is by just focusing on our senses. What it feels like to touch things, what it feels like to touch grass, or what it feels like to smell things, or what it feels like to see or hear, or whatever senses are your favorite senses. That to just focus on your senses is a way to bring you into the present moment. So sometimes we can get lost in our head and thinking and being too analytical, but just focusing on how do our feet feel on the floor? How does it feel to be sitting in a chair? How does it feel to be walking on the ground? Whatever it is that you're doing with your body, to just really bring your awareness to that and really feel it, really pay attention to your senses. So that is something that, in our culture, we've gotten away from in civilization. We've gotten less sensory focused and more mind focused, or more thinking focused. And when we get into our animal nature, we get back to our senses and we start to feel more at peace. Oh, here's our bonobo. Here's our closest relative. I forgot I had him there. Okay, 98.7 genetic match. So that means that we are 98% more like a bonobo than not. So only about less than 2% of it is different, genetically speaking, to this bonobo, our closest relative. So you can see that kind of look in his eye. You can tell he's thinking, he's got feelings just like us. So recognizing that in animals, recognizing that we have an animal nature, is really part of feeling whole and happy and complete. Because sometimes if we try to just be in our head, we're missing out on the good feelings of life, the good sensations, the good experiences, which are what the animals feel. So we can reconnect with that. We can connect to our senses. We can connect to our animal nature. And the reason why I think that's important is because our animal nature, our sensory nature, our intuitive nature, this is our essential nature. So independent of the circumstances of our lives, or where we grew up, or what happened or didn't happen, we have an essential nature that is like our truth, our inner truth. And I call this connecting to your true north. It's like your inner compass, or your personal knowing radar system, which is really important, because maybe, there's some expert in your life, some doctor who says, this is the way it is. And you need to be able to say, you know what, I don't know if that's true for me. It doesn't mean that that doctor is wrong, but it might mean that that doctor doesn't see the whole picture the way you see it. And being able to tune into your intuition and your essential nature, your sense of truth, your inner radar, this will help you navigate the experts of the world. And this is not just with doctors, is, even in the world of politics, or, people tell you certain things. And especially these days, it's not always easy to know what the truth is. So when you connect with your senses, you can feel it in your gut, what's true. And again, we're not talking about what's true for other people, but what's true for you, what your truth is. Anybody ever have an experience of like somebody telling you one thing, but your intuition told you something else, your gut sense told you something else? Anybody have that experience? So that's something that we want to cultivate, because this can, really help improve the quality of our lives. So one of the things that we talk about when we're working with animals is this principle of towards and away. So animals move towards what they want and away from what they don't. So if something is scary, they move away from it. Something they don't like, they move away from it. If something that they want, they move towards it. And the reason why this is important is that if we connect with our animal nature, we have a sense for ourselves of what's good for us. and we move towards it. We include it. We have more of it in our life. And we also have a sense of, you know what, this isn't right for me. This doesn't feel good. I need to move away from that. Even if that person says they have our best interests at heart, if it doesn't feel right to us, when we connect with our animal nature, our intuition, our inner knowingness, then we can feel inside whether it's something we should move towards or away from. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you folks? Yeah. This idea of towards and away, this is the natural rhythm that animals have. They are very truthful about their feelings and emotions. They move towards what they want and away from what they don't. And it may sound like, well, yeah, duh, but it's such a powerful idea when you think about in your own life. There are probably situations that didn't feel so good, but yet you were, stuck with them, or you had to move, you had to stay with that, and they weren't so good. And then you got away from them and you felt better. So these are some things that we want to be able to feel early. We can feel a sense of whether this is, should I move closer to this person or away from this, or away from this facility or closer to it? Or, these are the things that can really help us. Yeah, Juliana. Yeah.
My son sometimes gets sad because his dog runs away from him.
Oh, yeah. And you want to explain to your dog that explain to your son that this is natural and right, that dogs have a rhythm. Sometimes they want to be towards and connect. And sometimes, because they take on human energy, sometimes they need a break. So they we find this with therapy dogs. We can't do therapy work for, the average therapy dog should work, half an hour to an hour. That's it, because they take on the energy. So animals have a natural rhythm. And so you want to explain to your son that this is a natural thing for dogs to do, to alternate between when they want to connect and cuddle and when they want to go away. And that you can help your son to accept that that's right for the dog in that moment, and he'll come back when he's ready. And and you can also explain to your son that he has that too. Sometimes he wants to move towards something, and sometimes he wants to move away from it. And he wouldn't want somebody to interrupt that. He wouldn't want someone to say, no, you have to stay here right now. He would want to be able to move away. So if you can help him see that it's natural for the dog, and also that it's natural for him, and help him support that. Because if you chase a dog that wants to move away, it's not good. That could result, not with your dogs, but that could result in a bite. That's often why children get bit, is because they don't recognize that the dog is giving a signal. Okay, I've had enough petting for now. I need to just go and be by myself. And so as much as possible, we do want to teach children that they need to watch these signals that the dog is moving away. And it could be as simple as turning their head away. Yeah, Juliana.
So they said, yeah, thank you for that great explanation. I'll explain.
Good. That'd be so wonderful. It's so wonderful for kids to learn this, because it's a natural thing, but it could be misinterpreted. If you don't understand, you could think, oh, the dog doesn't love me right now, or something, or I did something wrong. No, it's almost like they get, if you look at a cuddle tank, like a tank of gasoline in a car, a cuddle tank can get filled for an animal and they've had enough and they need to separate. And especially with the cats, you'll see this, they'll want to cuddle. If you kept them on your lap past where they wanted to stay, you'd get scratched or bit. Right? So you want to pay attention. If that cat wants to jump down, let the cat jump down, because that cat is full with enough of that attention. And now it's time to get to separate, to have some space between you and them. So yeah, so anybody who feels they might be interested in fostering, definitely email me and we'll talk about your situation, what you're looking for in a dog. This is an orangutan who rescued, this dog was a bloodhound who was starving and at death's door, and this orangutan literally rescued him, nursed him back to life. Very fun. So if anyone here is interested in exploring this, please get in touch with me and we'll pair you up with the right dog. We'll talk to you about what you need and, introduce you to the dog and see if it's a good fit. So fostering means you take the dog home for a short period of time, anytime that you want, a day, a week, a month, a year. And then if you like it, then you can adopt the dog. So you can adopt the dog at any point. The little white dog here, that's my service dog. She's also a therapy dog. Her name is Sophia. And she's interacting with an airman right before he's deploying. So she's just giving him a little bit of love and helping him feel that he has some love before he goes off on his deployment. So this is, those of you who want to get in touch with us, this is our website. That's my email, jeanniejoseph9@gmail.com. And we have a lot of free information. Those of you who'd like to go online and read, we have, it's all free, 70 blogs, thehumananimalconnection.org. You can sign up for our free newsletter. And that's a picture of us at Davis-Montham. So good. So I would love to hear what was most useful to you, because it helps me to recognize what people really need. And so what was most useful or valuable to you in today's presentation? If you wouldn't mind unmuting and just telling me what you like the best. So what was meaningful to you? What was fun? What was useful? Or you can put it in chat and Juliana will read it.
Yeah, don't be shy here. Bill, Katie.
Yeah, so this is, any of you want to get involved and help us, volunteer with us. We're always looking for volunteers. And that's one of our therapy dogs, Rocky, there. So we have big and small dogs, all different kinds.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
All of your answers are very helpful. And then somebody else comment. I've been thinking about making the investment for a service dog. This has been great information. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Yes. So yeah, service dogs are life-changing if it's the right service dog, you know, and that get the, you know, it can be wonderful, can really make a difference in the quality of life. Yeah. Great. Well, wonderful. Well, I'm so delighted that you chose to spend your hour with me. I really appreciate it. I know there were a lot of other fun things going on at the same time, but it was really fun to be with you. And I hope that I've inspired you to explore either having a therapy dog visit you, or having a foster dog, or perhaps adopting a dog or cat. And we will have some more programs moving forward with the horses. It's, you know, it's kind of, we wait till the fall, a little bit cooler for the horses. So Katie, definitely stay in touch with us. We'll let you know when we have the next horse program starting up.
I have another comment. Is there training if we already have a dog, and any agencies that will pay for the training?
Yes. Yes, we will help you with a dog. We do that. We do free work with certain populations. So you can definitely email me and let me know if you fit in one of those criteria. Like we free the veterans, active duty, healthcare providers, working with a blind woman right now with her cat. So it depends whether or not we can work for free. So you could just, because I don't know what organizations would support that. We will be looking to raise some funds for that in the future. So you should definitely get in touch with me, because that is definitely something that we are interested in doing, is helping people who already have a relationship with a dog to make that relationship even more effective. We're not doing full-on service dog training, but we, you know, can help you with certain specific things, emotional support animals, like that. Yeah. Good.
All right. Thank you, Jeannie, for presenting this useful information about animals and how they can make your life better.
Thank you. Thank you. So everyone, please keep in touch. And thank you, Juliana, for moderating. And I hope you all have a good rest of the day.